Hello, and thank you for joining us for day 7 of Architizer Future Fest. To those of you who've attended one of our previous talks, welcome back. And if this is your first event, thank you for joining us. Future Fest comprises an epic series of 15 live talks with A+ award winners from all over the world, forming a vibrant celebration of architectural innovation. It's also our way of warming up for the 11th annual A+ Awards, which I can now reveal an official launch date for. Will be opening for entries on October 17th this year, so mark your calendars accordingly. And you can also stay tuned for more details on that a little later on. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Keskes. I'm the editor-in-chief at Architizer, and today I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to chat with Michel Rojkind of Rojkind Arquitectos, as he shares his vision for community-centric architecture. While we wait for the room to fill up, I want to encourage all of you to say hi in the chat box on the right side of your screen and let us know where you're from. It's always amazing to see such a global audience. Now, here are a few quick pointers about our live platform. If you're having any technical difficulties with the stream, you can click on the help icon in the bottom left corner, and you'll see a few options for improving your picture, the sound, and so on. It's worth noting that there will also be a recorded version of the talk, so you can catch up on anything you missed and share this with your colleagues after the event. Thirdly, questions. You can type anything you like in the chat, but if you have a specific question you'd like to ask, we recommend you use the questions tab. Just click on the questions icon on the bottom right of your screen and then type your question there. If you see a question from someone else you'd be interested in hearing, you can upvote it, and we'll aim to ask Michel the most popular questions a little later on. And finally, feel free to use the react button whenever you see something you like on screen. Now, for those of you who registered earlier on for Future Fest and have been receiving invites for each talk, I have some important update. Due to some technical difficulties we've been facing with the platform, we're now asking that you register for each talk directly in order to receive your access links. So to do this, you can go to architizer.com and click on the very top article on the website, and then you can scroll down to learn more about each upcoming talk and click the accompanying links to sign up for each one. And now I'm thrilled to introduce Michel Rojkind. Michel studied architecture and urban planning at the Universidad Iberoamericana and is a member of the National Academy of Architecture and the National System of Creators. In 2002, he established Rojkind Arquitectos, a Mexico City-based creative studio for design, business tactics, and experiential innovation processes. His firm creates urban strategies and architectural solutions that transform contemporary challenges into design opportunities. His team creates personalized experiences for each client and users by collaborating with specialists from all fields. He has been a visiting professor at the LA IACC in Barcelona, as well as SciArc, UPenn, and Harvard. Michel has served as a member of the jury for multiple international awards and has delivered lectures around the globe. His work has been featured in numerous books and magazines internationally as well. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Michel. What have you got in store for us today? You're on mute, Michel.
Yeah, first unmute the mic, then prepare the presentation. Thanks, Paul. Okay, there. Can you see my screen there?
I can see it, yeah.
Perfect. So first of all, thanks for the invite. Thanks for all the people connecting. I'm super excited to see everybody from different countries and different places. So thanks for joining. I'm at the moment in Madrid, leaving my daughter who's going to start studying university here. So it's a really emotional and powerful moment for me as a dad to leave my daughter so she could start her own stuff. So happy to be here from Madrid presenting to you guys, and I'll take it on. So thanks, Paul. Happy also to be part of this incredible series of conversations, and more than a conversation about the work, it's a little bit about a reflection. So I'll share with you what I mean about again, being very aware of what has happened during these 2.5 years of pandemic and some things that we've learned. So I want to start off understanding that we're figuring out what's happening to the world, and there's a lot of stuff that we think that I mean, of course, we know that the world as we know it is in danger, and we talk about all these facts about the Earth's surface and about this all the damage that's happening. We talk about how the Earth is fragile, but I have to say that the Earth is not fragile. I think that the fragility comes from us not understanding what nature is capable of doing. Nature is super resilient, and nature comes back and comes back and comes back, and it's us humans that are really the vulnerable ones because we don't understand what we're doing to the Earth. So I would try to reframe also what we've been doing, what's going on, because we're again, instead of understanding and having an incredible relationship to our planet, we're already thinking of solutions that we go to other planets. And like if nothing was going to happen, or instead of us taking care of this one first before going to another one, we're already inventing all these other things. And we talk about communities and future communities on other planets again, or on the metaverse or some place different, where we need to understand that community is now, that we cannot just mess up something and leave it messed up. We need to figure out how to really make sense of where we are, how to make things right before we plan an escape route to different places. We have to open up our eyes. We have to really take our hands off our eyes and really start understanding or seeing what is needed to be seen. All these things that are the problems that we have community-wise that we don't understand or we don't want to see anymore, or we don't have the capacity to have that awareness and have that sensibility to really understand what are the mistakes that we've done, or just figure out what are the solutions that need to happen. No, this is an image that I took not so long ago in a conference that I did in India, and this building was abandoned at the start of the pandemic. And it was interesting to see that in 2.5 years, this building already had trees growing inside the building. So again, when we talk about the fragility of Earth, my question is really the Earth fragile? Or again, are we the fragile ones? Because as soon as we stop doing what we do, Earth comes back and it starts regenerating. But I can't talk about all these ideas if I don't show it through my work. And so I can share a little bit of what we do and how we do it. And one of the first steps is that every time there is an architectural program or a client coming to us, we have a little bit of this diagram that we first pay attention to what is needed. Then we create a selection of what are the important aspects, and then we adapt to what is needed there. For instance, this project about the Cineteca Nacional, or the National Film Institute, it challenged the program. So we were not shy once the government contacted us to do the National Film Institute to reframe the question and create the best outcome. Bring in sociologists, anthropologists, and come up with a solution that really provided something that was much more interesting. So the National Film Institute already existed, but they wanted to create an expansion and renovate it. So the identity was this big parking lot. And we said, we don't want a parking lot. What happens if we create a space where we take away the cars, we put a parking garage at the entrance of the building, leave the cars once you come in, but then the rest becomes this open space. We were asked to create 4 new cinemas, or 4 new theaters. We were asked to create some vaults to archive all the amazing footage that they have from Latin American films. And also we were asked to create some office spaces in a museum that we invited Mauricio Rocha as an architect to collaborate on the project. So Mauricio's father, Manuel Rocha, had done the original building. So it was interesting to invite him to do an intervention in the old building and have this offices and museum done in the same site. So basically, this is the new theaters that have this cover that goes over the existing theaters to create this kind of space in between, which connects the old and the new. And then we wanted to create this new image also for that space. So once you, of course, leave the car at the beginning, at the entrance of the building or the project, everything else feels a little bit more like a campus. The inside, of course, is done in incredible acoustic and an aseptic way to make room and space, not only for films, but for also to have performances. Here we invited Hector Esraue, who also participated with us, a friend of mine, industrial designer. And this used to be what the National Film Institute looked like. So the old buildings and the parking garage with the cars all over the place. This is the new, how it looks now, with this cover that the new theaters connect to the existing ones, but it creates this park. The perforations, of course, start mimicking the idea of the camera, of the shutter, that at the center of the space, there's more openness and more light comes in. And as it goes to the sides where you have more natural light, the diaphragm or the opening becomes smaller. So the quality of light on the whole plaza becomes even. Then you have a way of these ramps that meander through the building. This is one of the parts that I was talking about, that we reframed the program, where we said, or we questioned the program, and we said, what happens if we have an outdoor cinema? At the beginning, they were kind of not so sure if it was going to be a good idea. But then when we presented the project, it was super successful, because we have great, the weather in Mexico is really good. Again, the theaters, this were the old ones, so we refurbished also the old ones. These are the new ones that, again, have this little space in between the sitting area and the stage where you can have performances, presentation. It's 250 people sitting. And today, after all those years, that this has become one of the most beautiful cinemas in the world, according to Time Out Magazine International. So it's won many awards, even though it was a cultural project. It went, again, from this idea of having these exterior spaces and creating new theater to housing or people coming just to hang out. This is the beauty of the project. And again, this is the beauty of saying that community is now where everyday life happens. So it's not just about doing an architectural program that we answer the question correctly of what the client is asking, but providing a space where you can have theater, you can have performances, there's music, there's different things of art and culture. So the Cineteca, in a way, becomes this platform of culture that can happen within the National Film Institute. This is a day when there's no projection, that people just hang out and they put their mats outside and they just enjoy the beautiful day. This is an image of once the show is presented. And this outdoor space was planned for 600 people. The day of the opening of the National Film Institute, there were more than 2,000 people sitting in the garden. What you see in the back, these trees are the trees of a cemetery in Joco, near Coyoacán, where the Cineteca is located. And it's beautiful because landscape-wise, it connects to the trees in the back. So it looks like you're in the middle of this park. And again, it's very beautiful to be there outside. I also talk a lot about digital design and local fabrication. And this is a project that we did for a company in Mexico. And we questioned the idea that why most of these stores started becoming warehouses and shutting out to the outside. So we convinced the client to open it up and have a relation to the outside and to the inside. And we started creating these niches and spaces of things that can house programs, and they can house either a performance, or they can house maybe a book presentation, or maybe somebody doing a class, or maybe a co-working area. And this is a small video that you won't hear a sound, but there's a little bit of music in the back. I'll send the videos to Paul so he can share them with you. But we even did these animations and movies for the client to understand a little bit of the experience of creating a habitable facade that in a way permeated, but it looked alive, or it started feeling like it was, it had this palpitation, or it had this again, this not only a static thing, but not only the movement of the people, but something that could feel a little bit more alive. It's a reduced space, but it's enough to house, as I was saying, staircases, sitting area, places for book presentations. And I also talk about the beauty of the handcraft and people and the workers. Now, Mexico is an amazing country in terms of workers. And I always say that Mexicans were always super ingenious. Sometimes it's ingenious by necessity, because it's a survival mechanism that we need to thrive on, because our system doesn't work as it should. And for instance, this is once we found the contractors that were going to do the building. I remember going to the factory where the steel workers were doing some of the hexagons for the facade. and I was expecting to arrive at this the factory and see this laser cutter in the back that was cutting all the hexagons. And when I asked the owner of the company, like, where's your laser cutter? And he points to the back and this is my laser cutter. So this guy was cutting everything by hand, and it was incredibly precise. And he was so proud of the work that he was doing. So imagine cutting everything by hand, welding it together, then running and polishing everything so they would have every single hexagon. And there were hexagons that were 3 meters high. To have it as precise as really, really incredible work, then doing the mock-ups one-to-one so the client can figure out and understand what we were doing. And then, of course, when we started working on the construction on the site, people were very curious because this is in Felix Cuevas and Insurgentes, which is a very, very crowded street. And people were wondering what's going on? Why are there openings? Why are people going up and down staircases? So it was interesting to see that even the activity of the workers was becoming a sort of performance to the people that were walking or on the car, on the stop signs, watching the building get built. So the whole intention with the company was not only to design something, it was about pushing and understanding things that can make it better. So housing a program that normally they would not do, housing something that would create life to the outside of the building and life poured into the building. So for instance, again, the idea of having the restaurant connect to the outside, the idea of having people working or having a coffee, or then maybe again, having a yoga class or having a CrossFit session. And again, this connection that we didn't want to lose. So we think it's a project that, again, it was not only about the design of the building, it was about the strategy of designing a building and what we wanted to say. And I think it's very important to understand the importance of interweaving the technology with vernacular craft. What are the local materials? What is the indigenous knowledge? What do we learn from every place that we go? So even though we want to have a contemporary approach, what are we learning from what is there? This is a project, a residential project that we did in Monterrey. And the important thing about this project in Monterrey was that we wanted to have something that really connected. If you see the mountain in the back, that it resonated with what was going on in the back. So the building starts creating this movement and this dynamic sense of creating terraces, not only because it starts mimicking or resembling to the landscape on the back, but also because most of the residential buildings that we have in Monterrey are totally enclosed and people go into their apartment and you never see people coming in and out. We wanted people in this building to actually come to their terraces and activate the spaces and the terraces to the outside. So there would be, again, a connection. So the bottom 2 floors of this building are retail, and then you have an office floor, and then you have the residential units. At night, it goes from this black, dark building made of stone to this warm wooden color that you have on the roof of each of the floors. So when this moving in and out of the building creates, again, these movements that you have on the building. The craft of the building, again, we work with local stone workers that do an amazing job. So even though it was a high building, they would be on each floor putting all the stone hand by hand, and I think that they did a magnificent job. And even though that we sometimes talk about architecture or people think that we're not being political, it's always a political act. There's always, design is constantly shaping the world we live in, and every decision is political, even though we don't want to. So understanding that every decision is political, when we design a project, we're of course designing something that we think is the best outcome, the best functional part of the project. In this case, this is a grocery store in Mexico that not only did we want to create something interesting for a grocery store, this is a place that used to house cinemas, and they took away the cinemas and they left the structure there. So we had to use existing structure and build an enclosing for the existing structure. So again, we designed something that was interesting to the outside, that people would recognize that the building was the access again to this grocery store. But the most important aspect, and again, talking about being a political act, we convinced the clients that in the rooftop, they should have a place for all the farmers that are in Toluca to be there and to have a space where they can farm and they could start showcasing their produce and work with the company. So in case what they were doing was approved and the quality was good and they were really good farmers and workers, they would start selling their produce downstairs in the store. So this started to happen, and we really were super excited about this idea, even better than the design of the building. The design of the strategy to have the farmers connect to the grocery store was something that was, to us, a big highlight. So again, you had hydroponic vegetables, and again, them planting, we got to know the people there, and it was amazing. We had we had an amazing time and relationship and openness with the client to have them be there. So it was a very successful project until unfortunately one day the client called me up and he said, "Oh, I want to call you because we need to do some refurbishment. We've been super successful." And I was hearing this and I was like getting really excited because I thought that they were really successful and they were going to want more farmers. And they said, no, we need to take the farming area out because we're so successful that now we need more car park. And I really couldn't believe the client was saying this to me, because I said, like, what are you talking about? You're successful because you're connecting a part of the society that's been neglected or has been left behind, and there's nobody supporting them. The government is not supporting them as they should. And you could be one of the people that can empower them and support them and make them grow. So I got really frustrated and I didn't do the refurbishment of the building, and I stopped working for them. And I hope that in the future they understand what could have happened. Anyway, I talk about interdisciplinary work as well. I think it's very important to understand that alone as architects, we cannot do as much as we want or as we need to. So the idea of being very interdisciplinary and weaving or interweaving with sociologists, landscape designers, economists is very needed for the projects that we do. That's why we can push a little bit of the boundaries. This is our first project in the United States, and I'm happy to show it to you because this is a project that we're working with Callahan Haruchi and Marlon Blackwell in Bentonville. So we got to Bentonville and we understood that the community is a community that is always is very proud of biking and is very proud of their tracks and how many miles they've designed for people to go and bike. So when they asked us to do an office building, we said, what would happen if we do an office building that you can bike all the way up to the building? And the great thing about it, if you can bike all the way up, is that, again, in a typical office building, you might have just the 2 floors at the base become the retail space. And in this case, you have all the floors that can become retail because you can access all the floors either walking or in a bike. So all the floors have street front. And the other thing that was very important to us is that because the community is still small and there's a lot of houses, we didn't want to have a big building that was very harsh against what existed there. So by pushing the building back with the ramp, the scale of the building provides a softer and a more elegant way of understanding the relationship of a place that's growing. So this is in the center of Bentonville in Arkansas, and it connects to the park. So again, you're going to see first a natural connection to the park that you have on the back. This is the building a couple of months ago under construction. It's now being finished. So by the end of the year, we will share some images of the finished project. And people are very excited. This is a little video that, again, on the website of the Ledger, there you see the ramps, and again, how people can maybe bike all the way up to a coffee shop on the 6th floor. We invited a really good friend of mine, Stefan Sackmeister, to do an art piece on the ramp. So you're going to see a very beautiful art piece designed by Stefan when you're walking up the building. And again, it seems that we designed the building post-pandemic because in a way, if people are scared of going in the elevator with more people, you can access your space any given day with the ramp without running or being enclosed in a space, in an interior space. So we love the idea of figuring out in the future how many people will still use the elevators or how many people will decide to walk up the building. These are some projects that I haven't shown, but again, for this area in Bentonville, for a hotel that, again, you can ramp or you can get to your hotel rooms with your bike. And talking about, again, the being political or creating new economies or new ways of understanding what needs to happen, at least in Mexico, there's so many opportunities to fix all these systemic wrongs, no? So again, this is a project that I got called by a friend of mine to design a cabin, and he explained to me why he was doing these cabins. I said, I'll design it, but I want to partner with you because I think it's a great idea. So he was renting land from the farmers who have lost their sales streams, so they can support and help staff and lead ownership. So these farmers, again, the government was not collaborating with them in terms of the economy that they were making before. So they lost their sales streams. And we said, well, if you rent us the land, we'll put our cabins here, and we can hire your people if you want to grow with us. So we started looking for land. So instead of buying the land, again, we rent the land, we bring in water, we bring in electricity. So if we ever move out, at least we leave them with something much, much better. And instead of doing our cabins and being very concerned about the site and the security and everything around it, we're very well taken care of by the farmers because they love the idea that we can bring a new type of business for them. So this is one of the cabins that we designed in the middle of Malinalco. Here's a little bit of the construction of one of the cabins. Everything is all this incredible wood that is, super sustainable. This we work with a friend of mine, Emiliano Godoy. So it's a couple of companies working together, A+, Arquitectos, Rojkind Arquitectos, and Tux. So everything, the idea with the cabins is that you can build them, assemble them, and disassemble them. So this is the test that we were assembling on the factory, so we could take it, disassemble it, put it on the site, and then again, the idea is if we have a great relationship with the farmers, we leave the cabins there for a long time, and if not, we can move the cabins out at any time. Here is one of the views from above. The idea that you have this incredible skylight that connects you to nature. And again, this is with the pandemic, people wanted to have more connection outside, and it's growing. A lot of people are now more into the idea of going away for a couple of days and connecting, and maybe working from offsite places, which is great, but always in connection to nature. Another really interesting thing is to understand why we're repeating all these programs. No, why aren't we rethinking of the programs that we know as architects? And one example is again, why do we keep repeating houses that we think it's going to be for a man and a woman, that they're going to have a boy and a girl? And we should start thinking of many possibilities of people that live in various ways. No, so this is a house that we designed for a client that he knew from the beginning that his kids were going to go away when they went off to college. So the house is basically the mobility diagram of how you go into the house expressed architecturally on the house. So this black rugged concrete that you see here is actually the circulation for the house. So it has 3 different entrances, and then these entrances create kind of this meandering center courtyard with a beautiful garden. And the different access or ways of getting inside the house are, again, because the clients were thinking when their kids went away that they could rent some of the rooms of the house. The wife, besides being a personal trainer, and has a company on wellness and yoga, she sees people in the house. So she has a small office there, which is great. So again, the idea is that you have different circulations for when the kids leave. This can be a co-living area of people that want to live in the house, and my clients can figure out who wants to live there and why, and then they can welcome them if they come from any part of the world, or they're either, also Mexican, of course, but understanding a house as a place to share or have more people besides your own family. So again, some of the latest images of this project that we recently finished, and again, the circulations are all this black concrete, so you're always compressed in this black serpentine that goes around the house, and then you're popped out to all these glass exterior boxes that connect to the landscape. On the left-hand side, you see an image of the wife, Connie, doing a yoga class with some of her teachers. That's the main room, or the main area that it has its own terrace, but you're overlooking this incredible view. And again, so the front of the house is very abstract, and you don't get to understand very well what it's about. But then on the back, it opens up to this house that has all these views to the outside. I also talk about the idea of learning from nature and celebrating it. So this is a house that we designed. This hasn't been shown yet, so this is kind of a first off. You'll see more of it, but this is a house in the middle of the jungle that talks about the less footprint possible, but lifting the house so you're at canopy level. So the idea of the house is that it really works in a way that it shades and it provides these cantilevers above the house. So you have all these underneath amenity spaces for people to gather. The house is again more for it's supposed to have a couple of families living together because they wanted to plan it that way. So it has a couple of areas that are shared and the individual or independent areas or the private areas. So everything made of concrete, very few materials. The idea is again to have this structure that becomes the main element and supports the house again as a structural element, but also creates the idea of overseeing the canopy of the trees and of the spaces around the area and connecting to nature and integrating to nature. I also want to talk about regenerative, because there's been a lot of talk about sustainability, but again, I always say that sustainability is not enough anymore, that there is nothing to sustain, that we need to think of regenerative solutions that create a new path for an enhanced interrelationship with our planet. So regenerative to me means something much better. It's not enough to leave no trace. I think we have to leave it better. We have to understand that everything we do, it has to create an added value. So this is a project that I'm happy also to present, because it's a social housing project that the quality of life with dignified living spaces was a must for us. So the image that you see here, the white building in the middle, is the building done by our client. And this is what he was going to present, and this was what he started selling. And he called us to see if on the sides we could have a better understanding of the product that he wanted to sell and design something with better quality and with better spaces for people to really, really appreciate. And we said, of course we can do it. And of course we want to get our hands on it. So not only did we design with existing structural criteria that he had, but we went further and we said, what happens if we have a market? What happens if we have amenities at the entrance? What happens if the rooftop of the parking garage becomes a courtyard for play? So this is courtyards or green areas that you have in the middle of the spaces of the buildings that enhance the life of the buildings. The buildings itself have colored bricks, glazed bricks, so they change colors through the levels, creating a much nicer relationship again to the neighboring buildings. These are the amenities, and we say, why do amenities need to feel like they're for social housing? Amenities should feel like they should be for humans, not classified if they're for their economy, you know? So the pool that is in there, we said, what happens if the pool looks like a pool that could be in any spa around the world, but we're super proud to have it in a space where anybody can access it, no? So generating these types of buildings and areas for people to really be proud of where they live, with gardens, with plants, and the relationship of seeing the neighbors, but understanding that there's a place where you really feel proud of having, you know, the market. So a market not only for people to come in and sell things, but a market also to understand that maybe the person living there can start creating a business and put his own business in the market. Maybe somebody there loves coffee and wants to create a coffee shop or do a coffee shop. So it's not only about dignified living, it's also about a dignified life. Can we create places that you can live there, but you can also work there, and you create a life within a short distance of where you are, no? So again, I think it's important to understand that every project has an opportunity to give something back. And by saying that, I want to present this project, which is very close to my heart, because in the middle of the pandemic, we were thinking of how to help. And I think it's important to understand that we need to really, really not see the other as something far away. So I remember when the pandemic started, the first thing that I questioned, at least, or started realizing, is that, first of all, we were fortunate enough to have a house. So we were privileged to have a house that we can really be in, and we were safe. So how do we give back to others if we were there? And I remember working with Carla Fernandez, a fashion designer, to create face masks, because the government was not giving face masks, and we were giving them for free on the streets. And I said, well, maybe that's not enough. So we kept on doing many different things. But as an architect, I said, why are we providing solutions, or why aren't we creating something? So I remember, and I don't know if all of you listening to me now remember the cover of the New York Times, when the New York Times cover was all the names of the people that have been dying during the pandemic. And this was maybe the first during the first year or year and a half of the pandemic, that people were losing all their relatives, and they just couldn't understand because they went into a hospital, but then they would die and then they wouldn't see the body. So there wasn't a way of reconnecting, or at least claiming or sharing their pain to others. So we did a little brainstorm in the office, and we said, why don't we create something? Why don't we create maybe this place where, also I'll share with you this video so you have the sound, but we said, what happens if there's if in this case, in Times Square, we can provide these plinths of concrete that have these wooden sticks with the names of people that we lost during the pandemic, and there's LED lights on top of these posts, and people can come and take the post of their relative because they have their name on it, and put it outside their house, and people would understand when they're walking outside a building that somebody there died from COVID and died during the pandemic. And this way, create empathy and create a relationship to the other, where, again, it doesn't have to be my closest relative dying in order for me to understand or to relate to somebody's pain and to share that as humans. So again, this was a really powerful and beautiful exercise to understand if what we're doing in this lifetime becomes part of the solution or part of the problem. And can we design things to really come back and reconnect and have empathy to what's going on around us? And again, we created this project for Times Square. We also proposed it for Zócalo in Mexico City. And we didn't make it happen, but we at least we shared the idea with people that we wanted to share it with. And it really, we got a lot of feedback from people that have lost relatives during the pandemic. So, and if we talk about what's next, and we talk about also jumping into the future, we got the opportunity to talk about the metaverse, no? And which is a little bit crazy, because I was talking about the speed of how life went so fast that we ended up in this pandemic, and this slowdown really made us be more aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it. So our guess, at least when we're talking about metaverse and working with companies on someplace else, we're talking about these different limitations and endless possibilities, but we're always thinking of how we can help reconnect what's happening here to what's happening there. How can we make sure that there's a bridge connecting the two worlds, so we don't forget, again, as I was showing at the beginning, that we messed it up and now we're leaving to space and we're leaving to this other thing, virtual scenarios, that we don't care if the world is upside down or not, because we're escaping. So this was a first test working with Jose Cuervo, where we wanted to create, first of all, a place that didn't look like common areas. And of course, we heard the brief and we heard what they wanted to do. And we said, well, can we figure out a way that while people are in there interacting and understanding these new scenarios and Web 3.0 and Decentraland and cryptocurrencies and everything else, is there a relationship of the metaverse that can really feed back into, again, in this farm, in the middle of Oaxaca or something else? So can we become this link of the metaverse with the real world? Can we understand that now that nobody is creating or people are working and this is happening in real time, can we become an instigator of connecting things? Because by now we know that most of the people working on these projects are game designers. There's a couple of architects already that gotten their hands into it. But again, it's not the job only as an architect. So can we really be working with sociologists, economists? What is happening there? What is again, the connection of those spaces to the reality of the world? So again, I think that if it doesn't resonate to the reality, if it doesn't make Earth better, what is it? Is it worth leaving Earth to do something somewhere else? And so what are the ethics of going to the metaverse? What is our job if as architects there is no gravity there? There are no, we don't have any climate conditions there. So what are we designing? And I always question, like, why is my avatar look like a real life person walking on Earth if that could be totally different? And I know it takes stages, but I think it's important to understand that we can have a say right now on what this will look like, and it's important that we all get our hands into it, because otherwise somebody else is setting the rules. And I think it's important to raise our hands and ask questions and really figure out why is it going to be worth going there, and what is the connection to reality, and how does it connect, and again, how does it make us better humans? Because if it's not helping us be better humans, what we're doing here on Earth, is that going to help us become better humans? And I'm going to close with this last project, and I use it again. I say walk the talk, because if you don't show it in your work, what's the use on what we're doing? No, so it's not only what we do, but how we do it. No, what are we doing? Being very coherent, no, and with purpose driven. So this is a project that we did in Mexico that touches two very beautiful aspects of my life. One is music, that I used to be a musician. I played the drums for a long time, and in architecture. So it puts two of my passions together. And I was asked by the mayor of Boca del Rio if we could design a project for the Philharmonica. And of course, I immediately said yes, even though I've had like bad experiences with the government before. But the idea of working with the community, working with the mayor, and just a little story behind it is that the mayor, when he became the mayor, he went to Boca del Rio and he asked the people there, like, what are you proud of? And nobody was very proud of Boca del Rio. They were proud of Veracruz, the state. But then when he said, no, but that's Veracruz, that's the port of Veracruz, but what are you proud of here in Boca del Rio, the municipality? And they were not very proud, but there were a couple of musicians that were proud of being classical musicians. So he built the complete orchestra because they were missing musicians. He created a social program to take kids off the street if they would learn any classical musical instrument to become the next generation. He brought Manuel Mestre, this music director, who's an amazing music director, to become the director of the Philharmonica, and they were very successful. So by the time I got called in, the Philharmonica had already built a name, and it was beautiful. So we got the chance to select the site because there were many opportunities of where the site could be, and we said, let's put it in a place where it's more needed, where the developers are not looking, where we can do a better project and become an instigator of what can happen around the area, to get people now to look at it and start putting more money into the project. So the project is where the river ends up at the sea. That's why it's named Boca del Rio, the mouth of the river that ends up at the sea. And another thing that we were super concerned about, and again, this is why I always say it's important, that what is my project giving back to the community? So this project in particular, we always presented it with the wave breaker. The wave breaker was a place that looked like an abandoned place. It had broken bottles, it had diapers, it had needles. I mean, it was a mess. So we convinced the mayor, saying, like, let's do the Philharmonica, but let's fix the wave breaker, and let's try to make all these elements around the Philharmonica become super nice. So it looks like we extended kind of the interior red carpet to the outside. I'm happy that he agreed. So every time we presented the project, it was an inclusive project. It was a project that was about what it did to the outside of the building as well. And the building in itself became a little bit of understanding the wave breakers, these concrete boxes that started to change scale and become these bigger boxes that would connect to the city, and started creating a sense of, or gradually build up towards the city to create this interesting play of elements that would start giving scale to the future buildings that will happen now with the site around it. So the project sits in the beach, a very complex site to build. So there was a lot of technical issues that we have to deal with, acoustical, of course, thermal, and the one of the most important the winds or north winds happen in that area. So we were very protective of having a building that was really close to the outside. Here you have the access of the building. So again, we wanted to reinforce the sensation of if it's the mouth of the river Boca del Rio, what happened if the building already created a mouth within itself? So the mouth kind of opens up and receives people in a compressed space. So this cantilevering concrete box floats 2 meters 10 above. So it's very compressed. And when you go in, it opens up to 3 level or 3 heights on the interior. And as you see in this picture, you have there's granite going outside, so that there's paving of granite in front of the area. So again, you can have the sensation that everything is coming out, it's receiving you, but it's creating this generous space for things to happen. They have yoga classes outside, they have people riding their bikes, and there's a video that I want Paul to share. I'll stop the presentation now so Paul can share the video, and then I'll jump back. But in this video, let me go out of this one. In this video, what's very beautiful about the video is that the mayor called us to have a meeting in the main space, and everybody thought that the mayor was going to scream at everybody saying like, oh, you guys are delaying the project, it's not going to happen on time. And actually what ended up happening was something very beautiful. And can you present it, Paul? Okay, thanks. And there we go. So what happened is that 4 months prior to the opening, so again, the mayor called everybody to the main area, and they were like very curious, and like, why do we have to stop? And they're starting to see something, but they didn't actually know what was happening. The orchestra started appearing on the construction site with helmets, with vests, and started playing instrument by instrument. But it was beautiful because what was happening is that they were saying in a way, we're here, and we're exactly like you. We're here with our hard hats, we're here with our vests, and our job is equally important as your job. So they started giving the first concert to the workers. And again, it's this idea of recognizing the importance of the community is now. That community is not the person paying the ticket, or it is the person paying the ticket. That building, the Philharmonic. So the next point is these guys were so incredible. They were so happy that somebody has acknowledged that they were there. Just glad that the first time was beautiful. And I don't want to show the whole video. Video, and you can see it later. Let me finish the presentation. But again, talking about the idea of community is now, my biggest concern is that we're always talking about yes, let's plan this thing for the future, for this community that is going to be beautiful. But the guy behind it, or the developer, didn't even say hi to the policeman at the entrance of the building. And he's thinking of building a new community. It's like, do you trust this guy? He's I wouldn't say a bad word, but why do we trust this guy if he can't even say hi to the guy cleaning the street? If he's not a good person, he's not going to be a good person if he plans a city of, I don't care how many thousands or millions of people. So again, it's questioning, what are we doing? What are we working, or who are we working for? And how are we working? So again, I'm not going to jump into all the details, but this is a project that, besides having the specific area for the concerts, it has many other areas for things to happen. It has these open spaces. It has another space for smaller musicians to play, to give them an opportunity to become maybe a place where you handpick new musicians to play in the bigger venues. This is the main area, very raw, a lot of concrete, but the sound is amazing. We were fortunate enough to have Joshua Bell, the violin player, come and play with the Philharmonic, and it was super successful. People were very happy. Another incredible thing that the mayor's idea, he said, I don't care what happens on the inside. It's going to be projected for free with sound outside, so anybody can see what's going on inside. So another gesture of saying, should projects be for the project itself, or should it have a generosity within the project or the strategy of designing a building to really become part of the community? So he was thinking of the fishermen that may not have enough money to pay for a ticket, and he said, well, if they want to sit outside and listen to the concert on the outside, it's a beautiful idea. And if he wants to buy a ticket, I'll give it to him for free. But first, I want him to understand what's going on inside, so he doesn't feel rejected from the inside, that it feels very connected to the outside. And it's been very successful ever since in that way. And not only does it have is it the house for the Philharmonica, but it houses now electronic music. It has the book, one of the most important book events that happens every year. Here, what you see is an image of the building, and you see the place where we selected it. So all the sites in front were small houses, some abandoned houses. You start seeing these 10 or 12-story buildings now in the back starting to happen, and that's going to change the whole face of that corridor, because the zoning changed, because we have now this symphony hall that gave life to this other part of Veracruz. And I love watching these images, because you have this Philharmonica place in the back, but you have the everyday life of people in Veracruz and Boca del Rio happening in the beach. So kids playing, all these things going on. The fishermen came back again because we paved, because we put lighting. So they're super happy. They now have a place where again, they can come back. And again, so this is a project that, when I talk about community is now, when I talk about what buildings do to their place or to their community, even though we're talking about the future, we have to understand that community is now. Whatever we do for future generations, we have to fix the way we're working and how we're working today, to understand that what we're doing for tomorrow is a real investment on our time, that we value the lives of others, we value the work that people are putting into what we're doing as a team, because of course everything we're doing is a collaborative process. And one of the most important things is that understanding that we don't see nature. We're not here just watching what is happening outside. We have to come back to understand that we are nature, because I think that's the first disconnect that we have. We're disconnected from the other, we're disconnected from nature, and that's what's killing our planet. That's what's killing us, and we are not recognizing or acknowledging that. So once we start shifting the way we're seeing things, and we understand that we are nature, and we need to really work in that way, and we need to work in a way that we're not, we don't need to wait for the other pandemic to come and teach us more lessons that we've already been taught. We need to wake up. We need to really be open to understanding how we need to work, connecting from our humanity. So I want to thank you for being here, even though it's a talk behind the computer. I hope this really resonates to who we are, not only as architects, designers, but more important, as human beings. So I want to thank you, Paul, for inviting me to this talk. And I think we can open up to some questions, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible, epic journey through your portfolio. Really appreciate how many ideas and very complicated concepts that you managed to describe, all within this short period. And yeah, we have a few minutes to go. Just before I jump to questions, I just wanted to make sure people are aware. If you're interested in following in Michel's footsteps and participating and potentially winning an A+ award, you can respond in our poll in the bottom right corner, and you can request a submission guide or request more information for the upcoming season. So I'm going to leave that open for the rest of the time. But I'm going to jump over to questions now. And I actually asked a couple myself in here, but I'll start with other people's questions first.
Can I start with this one, Paul? There's one Sure. Beautiful one that it's important. And Shahad, she is asking, it moved. Where is it? Do you encourage refusing working with a client if the commission is morally unethical design? Is it our duty as architects to refuse these projects? And thanks for the question. And I think that, I mean, it's very hard to start a career. That's one of the realities. So I just have to say that I was lucky enough and had the privilege of earning money as a musician when I started working as an architect. So that gave me a little bit of leverage where I could really say, you know what, if I have empathy with the client and I agree with his ethics and what he wants to do, I'll do the work. And that really gave me a lot of stability and a lot of strength as an architect to propose what I really wanted to propose. So I sometimes talk to my students and I say, you know what, maybe when you hear that people working in some other fields or wanting to do a career somewhere and they have like a part-time job where they can earn money, but they don't care because it's not as important, but they're finding the economy that gives them the support to do what they want to do. Just do it. Because on the other hand, I've seen friends that say, oh, nobody's going to notice that I took this commission. Nobody's going to know it was me. And then they get recommended for that commission that they didn't want to do. And then they created a whole lifetime of work that they really don't like. So be careful on your careers and your paths. And I encourage you that if we're all concerned about the future of our planet and the future of what we're doing as humans, I think it's very important to say no. I think it's important not to be part of these quick decisions of really bad things that are happening in terms of, just look at the built environment. Look at how much stuff is just awful, no? Because there's everybody's in a hurry, everybody needs to sell. But anyway, we'll take more questions. Sorry, but I think that was a really good one, and thanks for asking that question.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like that's a whole nother talk we need to do on that subject. Yeah, I had a question that was quite popular that was relating to some of your earlier projects you described, the bicycle-oriented designs. I'm interested to know, do you advocate for this type of building just where cycling is already commonplace and there's a demand for it, or do you propose it for areas where there's less of that culture to kind of encourage more eco-friendly transport and this kind of thing, or how much does one thing drive the other in that sense?
I think there's possibility for both, Paul. I think one is that we always want to feel not as outsiders. We want to feel that we're coming in to do a project with fresh eyes, which is very different. And fresh eyes means what do we feel, and how do we connect with the local community? How do we connect with the local workers? How do we connect with the local craft? How do we connect with the local custom? So designing a building for them. So in the case of the Ledger in Bentonville, it's a building that's designed for the community. I mean, I remember when we first went to see the client, the moment we got off the plane, he got us on some bicycles, and we went for a trail ride. And I was like super excited. I was like, wow, which client, the moment that you're received in his place, takes you on a bike trail, no? So, and he showed us that how they're growing and how they're proud of what they're doing. So connecting to that sense of pride, connecting to that sense of, look, we have this beautiful community that people will come and bike with us. So in this case, it was making sure that we understood a building. I mean, we had also Marlon Blackwell, who's local. So Marlon is an amazing architect who again, I mean, I have a great relationship with him and I've known for a long time. Christian and Haruka, super talented architects as well. So in this case, it was designed for the community. There's other buildings, for instance, Foro Boca, where the big plaza, nobody asked us for that big plaza, but we said, well, this is a place where you can have yoga or whatever, because the building itself is protecting you from the north winds. So even if there's a big north wind coming, you can be there, you don't feel it because it goes around the building. So it creates like this perfect scenario for yoga, meditation, functional classes, biking. You see a lot of kids skateboarding. So there is the possibility for both, Pauls, to create something that, again, we don't want to feel that we're outsiders introducing a building that is totally doesn't connect to what is there, but it has the capacity to push a little bit or become a platform. I always say, if our buildings become platforms for things to happen, I think we're doing a great job. We're as architects, we're less cocky to think that, oh, my building does everything, and understanding that, no, the building does certain things, but if we create exterior spaces, or if every building gave a little bit back to its community, we would have much better cities in general.
Fantastic. I think you actually covered a few of the other questions there. That's perfect. So, we just got 1 minute left. So I'm just going to squeeze in one last question for you, which is a big one, but you can just give me a quick kind of like immediate thought on it. Dimitra asks, how possible is it for us architects to unite under one greater cause? And I thought it was an interesting question. You have these very strong ideas about, the philosophy, community kind of driven architecture. Do you advocate for this kind of across within the profession? And how can you bring more architects into the fold to kind of think in this way?
So thanks for the question, Dimitri. And really quick, I'll try to answer. First of all, we need to acknowledge that architecture is not enough. that we don't have the power to change things with one single building. We have the power as thinkers to cross-pollinate and to bring more thinkers into the equation, to understand that it's public policies, that it's economics, that it's sociology, it's anthropology. There's more things that need to be put into the program to understand what is the best result. Because if we keep talking about, oh, my building is now net zero, I don't give a shit about net zero. I really think that when a building is capable of giving electricity back to the community, or giving free water, filtered water to its population outside the building, or giving whatever it gives, if it gives back besides complying its own thing, I think that's a generation that we're looking forward to really hearing about. So again, let's figure out how to connect to the best minds possible and work with them. But first of all, be open to learn. If you're open to, if you have this cross-pollination, understand the power of really collaborating, because a lot of people think they collaborate, but then they tell people what to do. Collaboration is being open to collaboration and open to having the best result possible, with more people thinking of what is the best outcome.
Such a fantastic answer, and that really links into a lot of the other discussions that we've been having over the past week or so. So that's a perfect point to conclude on, I think. Sorry to everybody that I wasn't able to get to your questions. Definitely there'll be more opportunities in the next couple of weeks to ask more questions. But I just want to thank Michel so much for that incredible presentation. And yeah, looking forward to seeing your future projects come to life in the next few months.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks to everybody from every part of the world that you guys connected. Thank you so much. And again, we have a lot to do in this world, not only as architects, guys. So let's think of solutions as humans. And thanks, Paul. Thanks to the team at Architizer. So hope to see you guys soon. Okay.
Thank you. We have just a quick one for tomorrow. We have MBRDV joining us, and then on Thursday we have Zaha Hadid Architects. So we have an incredible lineup to look forward to, and hope to see you all there in the next couple of days. Thank you, Michel. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.